The alarm clock screams at 5:45 a.m., and I open my eyes but my soul feels like it never actually slept. You know that kind of tired, right? The kind where your body was horizontal for 8 hours but your mind ran a marathon through every worst-case scenario, every unpaid bill, every conversation you should have handled differently. My room is still dark, just that gray pre-dawn light sneaking through the blinds, and there's a cold cup of coffee on my desk from last night that I never finished because I was too busy staring at a screen, trying to fix problems that refuse to be fixed. The mug has that little ring of dried coffee around the bottom, and honestly, that ring feels like a metaphor for my entire life right now, evidence of effort that didn't actually accomplish anything. I used to think following God meant I had to hold it all together. Like faith was a performance, and the audience was everyone who might be watching to see if I'd crack. So I smiled at church. I said, "I'm fine," when people asked. I prayed the right words while my mind wandered off to deadlines, to that email rejection I got 3 weeks ago that still stings, to the hospital parking lot where I sat at 11 p.m. waiting for test results that felt like a verdict. 3 in the morning became my regular appointment with the ceiling, and I'd lie there bargaining with God, trying to prove I was strong enough, good enough, faithful enough to deserve a breakthrough. Spoiler alert, that's not how grace works, but I didn't know that yet. POV, you're the person who's been holding it together for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to actually rest. You pray, but your brain keeps interrupting with reminders about the thing you forgot to do yesterday and the thing you're already dreading tomorrow. You've convinced yourself that if you just try harder, trust more, sin less, then maybe, finally, you'll feel that peace everyone keeps talking about. But right now, peace feels like a foreign language you used to speak fluently but somehow forgot somewhere between the third disappointment and the fifth unanswered prayer. But this morning, something shifted. Not because I suddenly figured it all out. Not because my circumstances magically changed overnight. But because I realized something so simple it almost made me laugh. God never once told me I had to start my day running on empty. He never said, "Come to me when you've got it all together." He never asked me to prove my worth before I could receive His presence. And yet here I was, treating my exhaustion like a badge of honor, as if being burned out for Jesus was somehow holier than actually letting Him restore my soul. The words from Psalm 23 hit differently when you're reading them through eyes that have been crying at 3 a.m., "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, He leads me beside quiet waters, He refreshes my soul." Let me read that again, slower this time, because there's something here I missed for years. He makes me lie down. Not, He suggests I take a break when it's convenient. Not, He hopes I'll eventually figure out work-life balance. He makes me. Because He knows I won't do it on my own. He knows my default setting is striving, performing, proving. He knows I'll keep running until I collapse unless He intervenes. And those green pastures, those quiet waters, they're not rewards for perfect behavior. They're provisions for exhausted people who've forgotten how to breathe. I remember the first time I actually understood this verse. It wasn't in a church service with perfect lighting and a well-rehearsed worship band. It was 11 p.m. in a hospital parking lot, the kind of place where hope and fear have a staring contest and you're not sure which one's winning. I was waiting for a loved one's test results, and my hands were wrapped around a styrofoam coffee cup that had gone cold an hour ago. I had nothing left, no eloquent prayers, no theological arguments, no strength to pretend I was okay. I just sat there in my car, engine off, staring at the concrete wall in front of me, and whispered, "God, I can't do this anymore." And in that moment, that raw, unfiltered, completely broken moment, I felt something I can only describe as an unreasonable peace. Not because the situation changed. The test results were still pending. The fear was still real. But somehow, in that silence, I knew I wasn't alone in it. Here's the truth I wish someone had told me years ago, and I'm telling you now because maybe you need to hear it as badly as I did, God's presence is not a prize for the perfect. It's a refuge for the exhausted. You don't have to earn your way into those green pastures. You just have to stop running long enough to let Him lead you there. So let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself because God already knows the answer anyway. What did you wake up with this morning? Was it the weight of financial pressure, that spreadsheet of bills that never seems to balance no matter how many times you recalculate? Was it tension in a relationship, words that were said or should have been said, silence that's grown so loud you can't hear anything else? Was it just that nameless heaviness, the kind where nothing is specifically wrong but everything feels off, and you're tired in a way that sleep can't fix? Or maybe it's the pressure to keep performing, to keep proving, to keep smiling when your soul is screaming for a break. Here's what I'm learning, and I'm still in process on this, so don't think I'm standing on some mountaintop of perfect faith. I'm writing this from the valley, same as you. But there's a truth about this exhaustion that I wish I had understood sooner, something that changes everything about how we start our mornings and how we carry our burdens and how we let God actually be God instead of treating Him like a cosmic boss we're trying to impress. There's a truth I wish I had known earlier about this kind of exhaustion. That truth is, God is not afraid of your exhaustion. He doesn't turn away when you admit you're running on empty. He doesn't scroll past your breakdown like it's inconvenient content He'd rather not engage with. I found that out on a Tuesday. Or maybe it was a Thursday. Honestly, the days had blurred together into one long gray hallway of pressure I couldn't escape. I was sitting in my car in the company parking lot at 7:42 a.m., and I couldn't make myself open the door. And I just sat there, staring at the concrete wall in front of my parking space, while tears rolled down my face for no specific reason I could name except everything. I wasn't just tired. I was tired of being tired. I was tired of pretending I wasn't tired. And I was terrified that if anyone knew how close I was to falling apart, they'd realize I didn't belong in my own life. Maybe you know that parking lot. Yours might be a different location, a bathroom stall where you hide for 5 minutes of silence, a bedroom closet where you've cried so the kids wouldn't hear, a commute where you've driven past your exit just to steal a few more minutes of solitude, a kitchen table at midnight when everyone else is asleep and you're staring at a screen full of numbers that don't add up. We all have our parking lots. We all have those places where we go to be exhausted in private because we've convinced ourselves that weakness is something we're supposed to hide. But here's where everything started to shift for me, and I'm telling you this because maybe you need the same shift today. I opened my Bible that morning, not because I was being spiritual, but because I had nothing left to lose. And I landed on a passage I'd read dozens of times before, but this time it hit different. Isaiah chapter 40, starting at verse 28. It says, "Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles, they will run and not grow weary, they will walk and not be faint." I stopped at that phrase, "He will not grow tired or weary." I read it again. And again. Because here's what I realized, God isn't standing over me tapping His watch while I fall apart. He's not rolling His eyes at my exhaustion like I should have figured this out by now. He's not comparing me to someone who has it more together. He is not tired. He is not overwhelmed. He is not running out of patience. And that means when I come to Him completely drained, I'm not adding to His burden. I'm coming to the only source that never runs dry. But the word that really wrecked me was hope. Those who hope in the Lord. In the original Hebrew, that word is kava. And it doesn't mean sitting around passively waiting for something to happen. It means to bind together, to twist, to stretch, like a rope pulled taut. It's the same word used for the cords that anchored ships in a storm. Hoping in the Lord isn't crossing your fingers and wishing for the best. It's tying yourself so tightly to God that when the waves hit, you don't get swept away. It's choosing to believe He's working even when you can't see anything changing. It's saying, I don't understand this, I don't like this, I want out of this, but I'm not letting go of you. And that's the memorable truth I'm holding on to now. Write this down somewhere, you'll see it. Waiting on God is not sitting still and hoping for a miracle. It's choosing to believe He's moving even when I can't see anything. But let me be honest with you about something. Because I don't want to pretend I read that verse and suddenly everything was fine. It wasn't. There were still mornings when I opened my Bible and couldn't read a single word because my mind was too scattered. There were nights when I lay in bed at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, whispering, God, do you even see me? Do you even care that I'm drowning here? There were worship services where I stood with my mouth closed because I couldn't make myself sing lyrics I wasn't sure I believed anymore. There were prayers that felt like they bounced off the ceiling and came right back at me. I'm telling you this because if you're in that place right now, if your faith feels more like doubt wrapped in desperation, you are not alone. You are not failing. You are not doing this wrong. You're just human. And God is not intimidated by your questions. But then I found another verse. And this one changed how I start every single morning. It's from Exodus chapter 33, verse 14. The Israelites are in the middle of the wilderness, confused, scared, wondering if God even had a plan anymore. And God says to Moses, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Let that sink in. God didn't say, I'll airlift you out of the desert immediately. He didn't say, I'll remove every obstacle by sundown. He said, I'll go with you. And I'll give you rest, right here, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the journey you didn't choose and don't understand. The rest wasn't a destination. It was a person. It was His presence. So I started doing something small. And I mean ridiculously small, so small it almost felt silly. Every morning, before I touched my phone, before I checked one email, before I let my brain start scrolling through its anxiety playlist, I sat in silence for 2 minutes. Not 30 minutes of deep Bible study. Not an hour of worship. 2 minutes. And I just said, God, I'm here. I don't have anything to offer you except this exhaustion. I don't have eloquent prayers. I don't have strong faith this morning. I just have me. And I'm showing up. And the miracle that happened wasn't what I expected. The miracle wasn't what I expected. It wasn't the bills disappearing or the rejection emails turning into acceptance letters overnight. It wasn't my circumstances changing at all, actually. The stack of envelopes on my kitchen counter still looked the same. The inbox still had unread messages I was afraid to open. The uncertainty about next month, next year, next steps, all of it was still sitting right there where I'd left it. But something had shifted inside me. And I don't mean in a dramatic, heavens opening up, angels singing kind of way. I mean quietly. Almost imperceptibly. Like the moment after a storm when you realize the wind has stopped howling even though the branches are still wet and the sky is still gray. The chaos hadn't vanished. But I wasn't being tossed around by it anymore. And I realized what had happened. Somewhere in those 2 minutes of showing up, those ridiculous, tiny, barely counts as prayer 2 minutes, a trade had taken place. The kind of trade that doesn't make sense on paper. The kind that economists would laugh at and self-help books would dismiss. I had brought my exhaustion, my doubt, my clenched fists, my I can't do this anymore. And in return, I'd received something I couldn't manufacture or fake or willpower my way into. Peace. Not the peace of everything being resolved. Not the peace of having answers. But the peace of knowing I wasn't carrying any of it alone anymore. The peace of finally, actually, for real believing that the God who spoke galaxies into existence was not intimidated by my overdue bills or my uncertain future or my fragile mental health. The peace of being held by someone who wasn't waiting for me to get my act together before he'd come close. Mirror moment, maybe you're hearing this right now in a quiet room, or on the bus heading to work, or sitting in the parking lot before your shift starts, and you know you're too tired to keep pretending you're strong. You've been holding it together for so long that your soul feels like it's got stress fractures running through it. You've been the strong one for everyone else, the one who always figures it out, the one who never lets them see you sweat. And now you're alone somewhere, and the mask is slipping, and you're wondering how much longer you can do this before something breaks. I know that feeling. I know the particular exhaustion of performing fine when you're falling apart inside. I know what it costs to smile through one more conversation when all you want to do is lie down and not get up for a week. And I'm telling you, not as a preacher with a perfect life, but as someone who's been face down on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. more times than I can count, there is a different way to walk through this. So right now, let me pray for you. Not as someone who has it all figured out. Not as a spiritual expert with a spotless track record. But as a brother who's still learning to unclench his fists every single morning. As someone who still has to remind himself, sometimes hourly, that God is actually good and actually present and actually working even when I can't see a single shred of evidence. Let's pause here. Take a breath with me. Wherever you are, in your car, in your bed, in a break room, on a noisy bus, just pause. And let's talk to the Father together. Father, I come to you right now not with strong faith and polished words. I come with trembling hands and a tired heart. I come as someone who's been trying so hard to hold everything together, and I can't anymore. And the beautiful thing is, you never asked me to. You never expected me to be strong enough on my own. You've been waiting for me to stop pretending and just fall into your arms. Lord, I bring you my exhaustion, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. I bring you my anxiety, the kind that logic doesn't calm. I bring you my questions, the ones I'm almost afraid to say out loud because they sound so full of doubt. I bring you the parts of my life that feel shattered and the parts that feel numb and the parts I've just been ignoring because I don't know what to do with them. And I ask you, Father, lead me to the green pastures of your presence. Not to a life without problems. Not to a future without challenges. But to the quiet place where I remember who you are and who I am in you. Restore my soul, Lord. Not my circumstances, those might stay messy for a while. But my soul. The part of me that's been running on fumes and fake smiles and forced optimism. Fill that part back up with your Spirit. Guard my thoughts today. Oh God, please guard my thoughts. Don't let fear rewrite the truth about who you are. Don't let anxiety convince me I'm alone. Don't let discouragement make me forget every time you've been faithful before. When my mind starts spiraling into worst-case scenarios, interrupt that spiral. Break into it with your truth. Remind me that you are with me, not watching from a distance, not taking notes on my failures, but with me. In the mess. In the uncertainty. In the moment right now. And here's the truth I'm holding on to, the truth I need you to hear like it's being spoken directly over your life. Your worth is not measured by your exhaustion. You don't need to prove anything to God. He accepted you before you accomplished a single thing, and His love for you right now is not dependent on how well you're holding it together. You are not valuable because you're productive. You're not loved because you're strong. You're not accepted because you never struggle. You are valuable and loved and accepted because you belong to Him. Period. That's it. That's the whole truth. And nothing you do or fail to do today can change that. So I want to invite you to do something. Not just listen passively. Not just nod along and then scroll to the next thing. I want you to take a prophetic step right now. In the comments, write these words: I receive God's peace. I rest in His presence, and I will walk in quiet strength today. Don't write it as empty words.